So I did my project on the average price of eggs in the last 10 years. Um, and the Excel file shows the average price for each month. And I titled it Eggonomics, the Science and Art Behind the Shell. My name's Will Fox. So a little bit about economics, the process. Eggs are a great economic indicator. They can commonly coincide with other trends going on in the economy, and their price somewhat reflects inflation and production costs, as well as consumer demand. And this data set that I found comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Um, and it was a nice clean data set, so I thought it would work great with Excel. Had all the columns labeled, had pretty much everything labeled, so it was easy to edit and access. Um, so a little bit about what I found. December showed the highest average price and variability. This could be tied to holidays and supply chain stress, while June showed the lowest price average. This was one of the main things that I found. We'll get into it a little bit more later with all the testing that I did. Just to preview some of the testing, I did an ANOVA test in order to analyze the egg prices across several years, just see variation across the means, and do the time periods have an effect on the price. Like I found earlier. And a year over year comparison, I really wanted to do a t-test to compare monthly prices by year and forecast the future egg prices and include some regression analysis, use historical analysis and statistical forecasting to predict the future. I think a regression will work well because there's two variables with the egg price and the year, so I can see that trend. Um, Another interesting thing to note, to keep in mind for the rest of the presentation is March 2025 showed the highest prices yet. Will this number continue to grow exponentially? Birds most recently were affected by the avian affluenza. So that is why we've seen this crazy spike in egg prices recently. A little bit deeper into the data collection, the Bureau of Labor Statistics collects data through a variety of ways. They use surveys, censuses, administrative records, web-based data collection. So this is a very reliable source. They do lots of different testing to find their data and have a lot of various collection processes. Um, and they likely identified a small sample of retail establishments, such as main supermarkets in these U.S. cities. Um, the data was located on the BLS website labeled Top Picks Consumer Price Index Average Price Data. There's price data for bacon, coffee, produce, electricity, oil found on their site as well, but I chose to do eggs. Some objective variables include egg grade, month, price, geographic representation, data collection frequency, and retail outlets. Um, this data collected is strictly from US cities in the last 10 years. And a little bit about the strategy and analysis. I wanted to find out if egg prices change randomly by month. Is there a trend in the data that might suggest that? I conducted an ANOVA single factor test to uncover the monthly averages and variances, see if I notice anything. You look for some year over year trends. I did a scatter plot that we will see later that will be able to easily point out differences in yearly prices, kind of just to set the tone, and regression analysis to allows you to quantify the trend in prices over time. And I could, get some predictive analysis from this. So here is the scatter plot that I drew up here. These are just for the average egg prices for each year, dating back to 2015. As you can see, clearly there's a steady trend over the last 10 years, but in 2025, the start of 2025, you can see that jump up to 569. Also, something to note is that egg prices were higher in 2015 than 2021. So this just kind of shows that egg prices have remained relatively cheap throughout the last couple of years, the last decade. So there's not much drastic change, but there are some effects. Um, and some regression analysis that I did, as you can see on the right here from Excel. There is a significance that suggests the model is not due to random chance and that the year does have an effect on egg prices as it is less than the p-value of 0.05. Um, and the prediction for next year is $3.75, as you can see the formula I did up there, based on the year and the intercept, which I was able to give a general prediction for next year. And the multiple R indicates that there is a moderate positive correlation between years and egg prices. The upward trend suggests that prices tend to rise over time generally. And about 46.47% of the egg variation in prices was explained by the progression of time in years. While not perfect, this model does capture a significant portion of the price trend. And the observed egg prices deviate by an average of about 0.97 from the regression line, so they stay pretty consistent within a dollar per se, except this last year, obviously. And then some statistical analysis. I did an ANOVA single factor, as you can see on the right here from Excel. And this is just monthly data from the last 10 years. And January and December had the highest variance amongst the months. Um, and the highest egg price average was December, and the lowest was June, as you can see the dollar amounts there. And May May had the lowest variance, with December having the highest. This indicates significant price fluctuation across the years. Is this from holidays, production stress, or even supply chain variability? So there's multiple variables and factors that could be influencing this. Um, and the F statistic was much smaller than the critical value, as you can see with the numbers. And the p-value is extremely high. So what I can interpret from this is that there's no significance in the difference in egg prices across months. This means that the monthly differences are likely due to random variation across the months. While there are trends across 1 or 2 months, they're typically random, it shows here. Some managerial implications that I had in mind based off of the data that I found. Um, Managers in retail industry should purchase eggs in bulk. This can help them save costs, um, and you can get a lot of eggs at a good deal. Because when consumer spending is down, it makes it easier because you don't have to keep buying eggs, and you can just have them. And the ANOVA results showed December's high variance that I discussed earlier, and managers can optimize inventory and capitalize on the peak seasons demand while minimizing these shortages. So really taking advantages of those other months. Um, and then the inelastic nature of egg prices. Retailers might focus on holding competitive prices as they stay relatively stable. Everyone always needs eggs. It's just a general necessity. So you can just maintain that competitive pricing because they're going to stay pretty much the same for the most part, unless there's an avian bird flu like we've seen. Um, and another thing is that these farms can take up to a year of cleaning and resetting the process for laying eggs. So if there is a flu, you have to be mindful of that and kind of understand like what you need to do to prevent that and also bring the business back. And some concluding remarks. Um, Regression, ANOVA, and time series uncovered key trends in patterns in egg pricing. Um, the data reliability here, the Bureau of Labor Statistics ensures that the data is credible. It goes through a very in detail process when collecting their data. And the data was labeled very nicely, as you'll see in the Excel file, um, in terms of like sharing like the different variables and different things that they found while collecting it. Um, And there is a limited geographic scope to note from this data. It was recorded from US cities, so rural dynamics are unexplored. They could have done more research in other variables, such as supply chain disruptors or production costs, or I could have at least. Um, but it was kind of hard to combine both. Um, and I had trouble finding a data set specifically on that I could edit in Excel. And even government policies. That could affect the pricing of eggs. And then here are my references.